Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hi, Chloe.
Really? You were being so good.
Today we're joined by special guest host Chloe the dog.
Chloe the dog.
So if you hear any barking, it's just her 2 cents.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Who's Funding This Podcast. I'm your host, Doug Terranova.
And I'm your other host, Maddie Bird.
How's it going?
To dispel, there are rumors circulating that we are funding this podcast. That is not true.
We don't have any money.
We are currently looking for somebody to fund this podcast.
Hey, do you have a lot of money and time? Or just a lot of money? We have time.
We have time. Yeah.
We don't have time, but we'll make time.
But if you want to fund this podcast, you certainly can.
Yeah. We'll let you.
And I don't want you to think that we're funding it, and so that you don't have to.
Yeah, if you're like, oh, shoot, missed opportunity, it's already taken care of.
Yeah, it's not.
It's not. Yeah.
Doug, before we get started, actually, could you hand me behind that pillow, the one that you're sitting in?
You want this one?
No, behind the pillow, I left my pen. It fell in.
Oh.
It wasn't my idea. We like to drink with Doug, and Doug just got ice.
There was a Smirnoff Ice in my chair. Oh, God.
I lied. There isn't a pen there.
Okay. I gathered that when there was instead of Smirnoff Ice.
I've already given Doug a mimosa as well. So
yeah, that's okay.
I'm just going to derail your Sunday, I guess.
Let's do this.
We like to drink with Doug. Doug is our friend. Doug is going to finish this in a number of seconds.
I'm not going to finish it in any number of seconds, but I'll just take a big chug.
There you go. I wish that I knew the words to the song that you sing when you chug it, because I don't know them. But it's similar to what I said. That's good. That's half.
Yeah, that was half in the time it took you to say that sentence.
Yeah.
There we go. It's hard to chug out of a bottle. I'm going to be honest. And
it's also hard because it's cold, which is good, but also...
No, I would say this is crisp citrus flavor.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, it is both crisp and citrus, and that is a flavor.
It is.
So good job, Smirnoff Ice. I haven't had a Smirnoff Ice in years. Which is funny.
Welcome to our frat house.
I did a comedy show recently at this place that is definitely illegally selling liquor at the venue. I won't say where.
Probably.
Because I'm not a fucking snitch. But they had like Mike's Hard Lemonade, and I got one because I was like, when is the last time? I'm not 70 or 14. So, like, I'm not the main demographics for Mike's Hard Lemonade. And there's a reason why. It's nasty.
It is. It's gross. I remember it being sweet, but I don't remember anything else about it.
The first thing I got drunk off of in my life was two Mike's Hard Lemonades.
That sounds right.
I was, if my mom's listening, 21.
Right.
If my mom's not listening, 15.
Damn, 15. I didn't ever officially get drunk until I was 21. I think you were there.
Probably. Jeez. I don't know. A lot of my memories are just deleted for reasons.
I'm going to delete the rest of your memories from this Sunday, apparently.
Well, you know me. I have a pretty high alcohol tolerance.
Yeah.
I feel like I also have a pretty high drunk tolerance. Like, I can be pretty drunk and I think pretty functional.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Now, I will say that's from my perspective.
I mean, I can tell when you're drunk because you're even more talkative, if that makes sense.
And loud. Yeah. I get really loud.
Yeah. Like, let's talk about it. Actually, speaking of talking about it, I did want to bring up with you, this is also a confrontation.
Oh,
now
no.
that we're both here, mostly sober, how do we feel about my new electric blue cowboy boots?
I gave you shit. So, Maddie has, as previously described, electric blue cowboy boots with, I would like to say, a little gold accent on the front.
On the tip.
It's shiny. I don't know if it's probably faux gold, but it's gold and shiny and metal.
Yeah.
So...
They're very good.
So, I'm not a cowboy boot person, is my problem.
Okay, and I think that's fair. I have never been a cowboy boot person, but then something happened to me. I don't know what it was.
I'm not sure if the microphone picked up my burp just now. I tried to make that as silent as possible. Sorry, go on.
But I think that, I don't know, they're so fun.
Yeah. So, my friend Tori and I were talking about this, and we grew up in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma, with a bunch of rednecks.
Gotcha.
And so I think if you didn't grow up around cowboys and rednecks, and also weren't one like us, the cowboy boots are better. I don't. I'll be okay. They look good.
They're fashion. They're fashion.
And you wore them fashionably.
Yeah.
However, electric blue cowboy boots have to be the statement piece of your outfit.
Right, that's correct.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say, however, electric blue cowboy boots are fucking gay.
Cowboy boots are just inherently flamboyant.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And they clicky-clack when you walk. It's like you're wearing heels. You might as well be.
You kind of are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have a raised heel.
Yeah. And it's like...
This just in, cowboy boots are high heels.
This just in, cowboy boots are camp.
Mm-hmm.
Wear cowboy boots.
Okay, cowboy boots can be pretty camp, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's... She wore them to... we had a show Friday night, and she was actually one of two people on the stage, I believe, wearing cowboy boots.
We bought them together.
Oh, did you guys plan that?
Yeah, so we met right before the show at a thrift store, and somehow...
You right before the show?
Right before the show.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, somehow... Because we were living in a perfect simulation, of course.
Mm-hmm.
There were pink ones that were her size, and blue ones that were my size.
I feel bad now because I really barely commented on hers.
Well, she wasn't being as obnoxious about hers, so it didn't...
She's less obnoxious in general.
That is true. Shout out to Sid French.
Shout out to comedian, friend, overall good person, Sydney French.
Way to be less obnoxious than Maddie Bird.
Low bar.
It's true. It's true. So the way that my wife describes them is that they insist upon themselves.
Does shoes do?
Yeah.
That's perfect, honestly.
Yeah, isn't that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, that's really good. Speaking of cowboy boots.
Oh, tell me more.
Let's talk about today's topic.
Yes! I don't know what it is.
Okay, I was about to say, I don't even think I told you. It has nothing to do with cowboy boots. It has everything to do with the Titanic.
Oh my god!
I forgot I was going to start this episode singing My Heart Will Go On, but we're too late. We're too far into it.
Okay, I think you still could.
No, the moment's passed. Yeah, it's passed. Sorry. So yeah, we're going to be talking about actually 4 different conspiracy theories surrounding the Titanic. What is your relationship with the Titanic?
With the Titanic? Well, I was on it.
Yeah.
And...
Were you first, second, or third class?
I was first, that's why...
You got to get to the lifeboats. Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I will say, and at the risk of sounding perhaps a little bit uncultured, I would say remarkably unschooled on the Titanic. Like, I understand that there were different classes. I get that the lower class was, locked in. I get that the Titanic was a big ship. It was a big deal. People got on it. I think it was, 1912.
It was. That's great. Yeah. April 15th, 1912.
April 15th, 1912. Way to go. Me.
Yeah.
And there's a movie about it.
There is.
Directed by James Cameron, I think.
Yes.
And it starred Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yes. Also true.
And Leo died.
He did.
And Kate Winslet's character didn't die.
That's true.
And that's all I know about the movie.
Technically, at the end of the movie, as an more than 84-year-old woman.
Then she did die.
She did die. She did dead.
But I say that probably floating on a piece of driftwood, she still would have froze. So
she was very close to it in the movie. I mean, people did survive.
That's true. So it's not impossible.
Yeah. 700-ish people survived.
How many people were on the boat?
We'll get there.
Okay.
So what do you think, is the first instance you have of interacting with the story of the Titanic?
The first instance, it's got to be like in school, but it wasn't a conspiracy theory. It just was like, you know, in middle school when you start doing like U.S. history proper, and you kind of start going, and then you learn about the Titanic and why it was like the Industrial Revolution. It was like a pivotal point in like, technology.
Yeah.
And so I know that would be my first experience with it. So maybe 12 or 13 years old. What about you?
So my first experience actually was before the movie came out. I was, you know, a little nerd and I read a lot.
I love that.
And there was this book series, and I was trying to remember anything about it other than these kids had access to a magical remote control, like TV remote.
But it wasn't a magic treehouse? This was
No,
different?
it was a remote.
Really?
And, yeah, this was actually maybe around the same time that Magic Treehouse started coming out, maybe before.
Okay.
I know Magic Treehouse was out forever, but I don't know. But anyways, they had a TV remote that could take you to any point in time. So you couldn't change history. You could just go observe it.
Huh.
And they went to the Titanic, and it was this whole thing where the girl was like, I really just want to save the Titanic, and they couldn't. So I think the earliest, but I think I probably...
And they couldn't.
They couldn't. The Titanic still sunk.
I did that book, just a bit of nihilism.
And I went, my parents took me and my sister to see the movie when it was in theaters.
Okay.
And all I really remember from that is my dad escorted us out of the theater during the naked scene.
Oh.
And then back in when the naked scene was over.
That is so funny. so did your parents
But we still saw, like, the sex in the car scene. They must have known, because they were ready for it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
the thing is, I'm so oblivious, I probably wasn't even looking at the screen. I was a space case as a kid. Truly. But, hit my mic. But yeah, so that was kind of, after that, I had, it's so gay. I had Titanic on the 2 VHS set, and I had the soundtrack that I listened to a lot.
That is pretty gay.
I was a gay child. A very gay child.
It's a wonder you're not homosexual now.
I know. Never mind. I was going to make a terrible joke, but I won't.
I do wish we've really got to start filming these, because the look on your face was excellent. The way that the joke came, processed, and then
you're just
you
like,
went, no, I got better.
I can't do it. We do have to start recording video coming soon to who's funding this podcast, as soon as we get our shit together.
And somebody starts funding this podcast.
Yeah. We really, it's fine. Anyways, so yeah, let's get into it. Like always, we will clink our glass.
It was an accident.
We'll start with background. So the Titanic was, at least finished, built in 1912 by the Harland and Wolff shipyards for the White Star Ocean Line.
Okay.
It was the second of 3 ships that they called Olympic-class ocean liners that they built for the White Star Ocean Line. The first was the RMH Olympic, and the third, so the second was Titanic, the third was the HMHS Britannic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the maiden voyage of the Titanic, huge deal. As these Olympic-class liners, they're supposed to just revolutionize how cruise liners were built all over the world. Is a big deal.
Yeah.
So actually, let me do this. I'm going to do a small breakdown of the different lodgings between first, second, and third class.
Okay, yeah.
I just think it's interesting. So because it was such a big deal, first class, it's all of the who's who of the socialites of 1912. Like, important business magnates, very rich people, basically just the upper crust of society.
Mm-hmm.
So first class rooms ranged in price starting at £30 for a single person room, which in today money is £3,800.
3,800?
Yeah, which is actually not bad. Bobby and I are going on a cruise in February and paying about that much for our room.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not terrible. To 870 pounds, which is a little over 107,000 pounds today.
That's too many.
Yep, for a parlor suite with a private promenade deck. That's what that would get you.
That's being flush with cash.
Yeah.
Right there.
That's actually, so this same cruise that we're going on, there is a room that it's the most expensive room. There's one, and it's basically a whole suite. It's got a baby grand piano in it. It's got it's fully furnished. It's got its own deck. It's basically that, and it's I think around the same amount of money. But
really?
But
there's more than one of these suites. Like they have more than one.
They had many of those on the Titanic.
What? It's a big boat.
And they would customize things for their people in those rooms, which you fucking better,
right? Honestly, for that price, for what society was like back then.
Sorry, there's this is a special animal inclusion episode and things are happening.
Wait.
The first class passengers, some of their amenities. They were treated to a gym, a squash court, a saltwater pool.
Okay.
Victorian style Turkish baths.
Wow.
A barber shop.
Victorian style Turkish baths.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense when you really start to pull that apart.
So
but
we're just going to move on.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. A barber shop, kennels for their dogs.
Okay.
And private promenades.
Okay, I love it. I love that there's also kennels for dogs.
Only for first class.
Yeah, well, fair enough.
Yeah. You gotta leave your dog behind if you're second or third class.
True.
Second class is like leisure tours. It's very much the same as if you were like going on a cruise today. Mm-hmm. Except even in today money, I think you would be hard pressed to get some of these prices. The price for second class passengers, it was per person, is £13, which is about 1,600 pounds today. They had access to their own library. Mm-hmm. Men had a private smoking room.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They also had access to a lot of games, and there was a second-class promenade. Okay. Third-class passengers, largely working-class immigrants, trying to immigrate to the United States for either family or like a new start. It was very much that time of the United States history. Yeah. Third-class passengers paid £7 per person, which is about $900 for adults, or £3, which is about £40 today for children. Okay. Which still seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot.
It seems, but these are people who are not trying to make a return trip for the most part.
So you're investing in getting your ass out of town.
Yeah, getting to America. Yeah. And all the wonders it has.
The streets are paved with gold. Didn't you know?
That's what was it? Did you ever watch American Tail? The Mouse. Bible.
The Mouse. I read a book where there was a mouse. It was a knight.
Okay, not important. Okay, moving on. They're not all winners of conversation. It's fine. We just throw out. We lob out what we can, and sometimes they're duds. So third class passengers slept in dorm style rooms with like bunk beds and like mini to a room. They did have a private with like a communal dining room rather with a kitchen staff and meals provided, which was actually a big deal then because mostly third class passengers on cruise liners had to bring their own food.
Oh, so for the whole trip.
Yeah. So the White Star Line actually did that intentionally. So hopefully like the third class passengers would write to family and stuff and be like, wow, look at how good they took care of us. We didn't have to bring our own food. Okay. However, were they good? Like to them? Did they take care of them? No. Yeah. So in an effort to keep the third class separated from the rest of the ship, because God forbid,
there's intermingling.
Yeah. There were bars over the stairways leading to the rest of the boat. And you mentioned it earlier, but on the night that the ship sank and the confusion, stewards were really focused on waking people up. A lot of the stairways weren't opened up for third class, so a lot of people were trapped down there.
Oh, okay. So I suppose it's less intentional than what I thought, but still pretty intentional if I'm being honest.
I mean, it's intentional in that their bars were put there to keep them down there. It wasn't, So and there still was the issue that third class passengers were not getting on lifeboats. There were not enough lifeboats, but also, so that's that. Many people, probably because of a really clever marketing campaign, called the Titanic unsinkable. That was its big deal, right?
Okay, now I'm getting why there's conspiracy theories, right? Because it's unsinkable, this is the best thing we've ever done, we don't even need lifeboats, and then it sinks.
Yes. Now, the majority of people probably didn't believe that the ship was unsinkable. It's thousands of tons of metal going on water.
Yeah. You're telling me that there was some skepticism?
Sometimes it's out there. We don't interact with it a lot, but the public did largely believe that the Titanic had state-of-the-art safety measures. So it wasn't unsinkable, but it was more safe than other ocean liners.
Oh.
And it was a big brand new thing, too. So that's not a stretch for them to believe that, along with the marketing. However, it didn't have state-of-the-art safety measures.
It just didn't have safety measures.
So, on April 15th, 1912, during its maiden voyage across the Atlantic, the Titanic... Yeah, I'm blaming you in this, Smirnoff. The Titanic hit an iceberg and sank. So, you asked how many people were on it. Estimated 2,224 people.
2,224.
And approximately 1,500 died.
Jesus.
Making the Titanic the single most deadly ship sinking in history. So that's the background.
That's a fuck ton of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People sank.
I don't like it.
That's why the Atlantic Ocean's haunted now.
Oh, is that the conspiracy theory? 10 out of 10.
That's the one I'm making up right now. Yeah.
End of episode. 10 out of 10. We're done.
Ocean's haunted.
Yeah.
Can't go there.
We've seen it.
So I do have several conspiracy theories today.
Okay, I'm excited.
Our first one. Conspiracy theory number 1. The Titanic was deliberately sunk to eliminate opposition to the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank.
Interesting. Interesting.
So, before we get into one of the things that have caused quite a bit of speculation and that there's not really an answer to is that the Titanic took a fairly dangerous route for that time of year.
Okay.
Because that route, they were going through a lot of known iceberg fields. And even though it was April, it's still where they were going through, very cold. And so a lot of those icebergs it was still a very dangerous place to go through.
And there wasn't another path that they could have taken?
They have the whole ocean, Maddie. Yeah. That's.
But sometimes, I don't know, there's wind and stuff. I still don't understand compass. So
no, I mean, because they weren't, they quote unquote were sailing, but it was a steamboat. So I imagine, there's currents and shit. I don't know. Again, this is an entertainment podcast. I said it before, I'll say it again. We are not educational. If you're coming here to learn things, stop.
That's a choice.
Actually, keep listening, but understand that you are making a choice. Yeah.
I feel like you can learn something from this podcast. And I would love for you guys to leave a comment or a review or message us and tell us what it is.
I'm fairly certain you could do several psychological studies off of this podcast alone. So,
I agree.
So, that is a foundation for a lot of the Titanic conspiracy theories. Though it went through what a lot of people called an unnecessarily dangerous path.
Okay.
Now let's pivot and talk about J.P. Morgan.
Tell me more. This is another bank.
So it's a person who was a banker.
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan Chase, named after J.P. Morgan.
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan was a titan in banking, and just titan in industry. He had his hands on a lot of pies, so to speak. Maybe literally. I don't know.
Yeah. Rich people are into weird shit.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So he had at the time put just a tremendous amount of effort into opening a centralized bank in the United States.
Okay.
Which is what the Federal Reserve is. He did face a lot in the way of opposition. So conspiracy theorists claim that he took the opportunity to get rid of some of the opposition by deliberately sinking the Titanic with several of the men who were, quote, in the way of the Federal Reserve Act passing. So these men, there are three of them, who were on board the Titanic.
Okay.
John Jacob Astor IV, which the Astors are a huge name in that time frame. Benjamin Guggenheim.
Oh, man, not the Guggenheims.
Oh, you know the Guggenheims.
I know the Guggenheims.
And Isidor Strauss. All three who were involved in U.S. industry and banking at the highest levels. And according to the conspiracy theory, all three men were opposed to the idea of a U.S. centralized bank and thus represented a threat to J.P. Morgan's efforts.
I want to throw a wrench in this right away and say there can't possibly be that much power between only three people.
Yeah, okay.
But, certainly the world doesn't work that way.
Yeah, certainly we're not actually ran by, 10 rich people.
Yeah. Who are descendants of these same fucking individuals.
I'm saying, well, not these guys.
Well, they're getting on.
Yeah, if they had kids, it was before this. Yeah, that's what I know.
Is the Titanic the only thing that kills rich people?
Well, yeah, so far it's the Titanic and efforts to get down there.
To see the Titanic.
I saw the funniest graph after the Ocean Gate thing.
Yeah.
Which was fatalities related to the Titanic over time. And so it's like 1912, huge spike, and then nothing, and then 2023, a little blip. And listen, you know my feelings on this. Mm-hmm. That will never not be funny to me.
I completely agree.
Not the Titanic, huge tragedy. But billionaires doing stupid things and dying because of it, great.
Yes.
I think SpaceX now is starting to say that they will have like leisure trips to like suborbital space in the near future, and I'm like, good.
Just get them out.
Good. Yeah, that sounds great. I love it when they don't.
In suborbital space.
Looking at space. Yeah, I listen. I love it when they don't learn from their own mistakes. I fucking love it. But anyway, so J.P. Morgan. So this is part of the how he could have done this. Mm-hmm. J.P. Morgan owned the International Mercantile Marine Company, which was the parent company of the White Star Line, who ran the Titanic, obviously.
Right.
Thus, that gave J.P. Morgan a huge amount of influence and control over the operation and construction of the Titanic.
Okay.
Also, J.P. Morgan had allegedly bought a first-class ticket for the Titanic.
And then didn't go?
Yeah, didn't go. The day of, he decided to stay instead at a French resort. So he could, and this is a quote, so he could enjoy his morning massages and sulfur baths.
Okay, well, that does sound nice.
I hate rich people. I hate them.
But sulfur baths, does he just mean like hot springs?
I don't know what a sulfur bath is.
Because it would smell bad.
It would smell probably like sulfur, I imagine, which is not great.
Not great.
No.
But rich people are into weird stuff.
Yeah, they are. And I don't know, maybe he already smelled bad.
That's true.
Maybe, yeah, that's just what's happening.
He should probably visit those Victorian-style Turkish baths.
So it's actually electric and Victorian-style Turkish baths, but I didn't know what that meant, so I just deleted electric from my notes because I was like, I don't know what that means. But that's, yeah, apparently they had electric and... What are electric baths? It sounds like a one-time thing, personally.
100% it sounds like a one-time thing. Electric baths? Like, do you just mean like you
they just threw toasters in. Like, get in.
Just a little toasty. Just a little bit of a, you know what I mean? Just like a.
Yeah, I like little.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How am I supposed to feel clean if I don't feel like, it gets all the dirt off.
It's like when you stick a fork in an electrical socket. You ever do that?
Yeah, for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I became the person I am today.
What are your core memories? Well, there was this one time that I stuck a fork in an electrical.
Did you ever lick like a 9-volt battery?
I never licked a 9-volt battery, no.
Okay, we had different childhoods. I'm saying that now. So conspiracy theorists point to the fact that he bought a ticket and then decided to not go, as like it was a ruse to distance himself from the cause of the Titanic sinking. So he could be like, no, look, I was going to go. And it was,
but he had no intention of that.
But he had no intention of actually going.
Why, you booked this voyage on this big deal, and you're like,
spent in today money over £100,000.
Yeah. But you have just book your massages for a different day.
Can you not bring a masseuse with you?
Why would they would probably have masseuses there?
They have a barber shop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, get the barber to do it.
I hear barbers do that.
Yeah, they don't. So yeah, the idea is this coupled with the dangerous route that the Titanic took is he instructed them to go to a route that would put them in the middle of an iceberg field and to intentionally hit an iceberg and sink, thus killing these 3 men who opposed the Federal Reserve Act.
Okay, again, I want to say that there's no way that they would just listen to this super rich man and be like, sure, we'll go that route.
And die?
Just die. But that would definitely happen.
Well, I don't know, man. I guess so. I guess, yeah, powerful men have a way of making their will happen.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold off on my thoughts, actually, for a minute.
Okay.
So, I want you I have other things, but right now I want you to give me your rating of this conspiracy theory.
The problem is that I don't actually feel like you've given me anything that is
evidence?
No, I mean, that's the thing with conspiracy theories, right? We talk about this often, the absence of the burden of proof is on the accuser, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
But at the same time, everything sounds plausible so far. Like we said, powerful men have a way of having their will enacted. So I don't feel it's not 0 out of 10. I'm honestly gonna go, but I don't feel I feel like there would be a better way to enact your will, and if you have that many resources at hand, you don't need to kill 2,000 people to kill 3.
Okay. That is honestly what hung me up too.
Yeah. So for that reason, I'll give it a 2 out of 10.
Okay. So, it is a special animal episode of Who's Funny This Podcast. So if you just heard him meow, that wasn't Maddie. That was an actual cat.
Yeah, he does the little chirps. He's a chirpy boy.
He's a chirpy boy. That's Zuko. Not the Fire Lord, but close.
Well, he's gone through a redemption arc himself.
He has, and he used to be a little shit, honestly. I have always loved Zuko, but he definitely used to be big on, he'll let you pet him and then out of nowhere bite you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just absolutely attack you.
Yeah.
Which is very Zuko from Avatar.
Yeah, hey, listen, he lives up to his name.
He does. So 2 out of 10, but now let me give you some reasons why this is probably going to fall apart.
Okay.
So it falls apart a little bit because the biggest thing is that the 3 men that are listed, John Jacob Astor the fourth, Robert Guggenheim, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidore Straus, were never on the record opposing the Federal Reserve Act.
Huh.
Astor and Guggenheim never had any public remarks about it, though it's possible they could have opposed it quietly. There's always backroom stuff and intrigue. But Strauss was a public supporter of the act.
Yep, that makes it fall apart.
Yep, there's more. So that's the biggest thing. But also, the conspiracy theory was popularized last year after the sinking of the OceanGate submersible, and is mostly believed and spread by QAnon folks.
Oh. Mm-hmm. You did say QAnon was going to make an appearance.
And there it is, yeah. So this is actually kind of like a gateway conspiracy to a lot more anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that are kind of branched off of this.
Okay,
yeah.
So 0 out of 10.
Yeah, 0 out of 10. I think that if you were to take away the QAnon part of this, and the fact that these men didn't oppose the Federal Reserve Act, and you were just to tell me, like you said, a rich man wanted this to happen, and it happened, and he didn't care about the cost of life. Right. I would say it's still not very plausible that it doesn't seem like... He also he owned basically the White Star Ocean Line and would have had to suffer a loss in business. Now, granted, he was unfathomably wealthy, so he could have absorbed that, but that's not the type of thing that businessmen like this do.
Want to do. Yeah. How much, he's basically sitting out here I'll fuck my whole life up just for this. That doesn't feel plausible. I really don't like that QAnon, it's a gateway to QAnon racism and violence and hate and anti-Semitism. That's not good.
It basically, I'm not going to bring those conspiracy theories to light because don't. But basically, to summarize, it was the Jews did it. That was basically it.
Gross.
Yeah.
Gross.
So, speaking of bad business decisions, let's get to conspiracy theory number 2.
Number 2!
The ship that sank wasn't actually the Titanic.
I think that Caroline told me about this. I think we briefly discussed this.
Caroline's a big believer in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figured. To be fair, since everyone who doesn't know Caroline, she's probably not. But, so this is actually probably one of the more popular ones and one of the most elaborate conspiracy theories surrounding the Titanic.
Okay.
Now, again, I burped. If you're wondering, am I going to get into how elaborate it is? Probably not. But
not until we have a whiteboard or a bulletin board with some red string.
Just the Charlie Day conspiracy theory meme. Yeah.
Yes.
So this was put forth originally by Robin Gardner, or maybe not. If not originally, is heavily popularized by Robin Gardner in his book Titanic: The Ship That Never Sank, which came out in 1998, which is the same year that the movie Titanic came out.
Interesting.
I'm gonna sneeze. Oh no. Oh God, please sneeze. Oh, smart. When I said I had to go back because the edits didn't save for Avril Lavigne?
Yeah.
It was very much you being I have to pause and go to the bathroom. So I heard it and I was I know. Immediately deleted the episode.
Oh, there's still a dog there. Okay. Sorry, while we're doing this. Yeah, it's just so comfortable.
Okay, ready?
Everything is good.
Everything is awesome. Okay. So basically this conspiracy theory is about insurance fraud.
Okay.
At the beginning and the end of it. So to begin to explain, we have to talk about actually the RMS Olympic, which is the first in this Olympic class ocean liner. Mm-hmm. Which, if you remember, there were 3. There was the Olympic, the Titanic. I think it made it worse.
I think it made it worse, too.
It's cute avocado, though.
It's literally supposed to fix that.
Okay, ready?
I'm ready.
So, if you remember, there were 3. There was the Olympic, the Titanic, and the Britannic.
Yep.
So the Olympic was the first one by several years older, and it was damaged in September of 1911 while sailing from England to New York. The official story, if you can believe it, is...
We don't believe anything on this podcast.
We believe very little. Is that it went back to the Harland and Wolff shipyards for repairs and then went back out to do another transatlantic trip shortly after. However, conspiracy theorists allege that someone at Harland and Wolff appraised the Olympic and said the damages were too severe and it wouldn't be profitable to fix them all. So what they did instead was the shipyard equivalent of just slapping some duct tape on it and swapped it with the Titanic. Mm-hmm. They then sunk the Olympic while disguised as the Titanic. This way, instead of accepting the losses of just a broken ship, they were able to collect the insurance money. The idea here, I guess, is that the Titanic, brand new, worth more than the now damaged Olympic. Mm-hmm. So if they swap it out, they'll get the insurance money from with the value of the Titanic versus the value of the Olympic.
Yeah.
And thus make some more money.
But at the cost of 2,000 people, I'm saying 2,000, but at the cost of 1,500 people?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they knew there's 2,200 people on board, so I'd say they would be willing to accept
2,000 people.
Yeah.
Dead.
Yeah. So basically, there's, I mean, books written on this, but what it comes down to is they were like, we can make more money by sinking this ship disguised as the Titanic, and the Titanic can just go on as the Olympic.
So we can... This feels so convoluted.
Yep. So that's, if you're waiting for more, I'm not going to give you more.
Well, but is there like anything about like the physical evidence?
So yes. But I don't want to tell you yet. I want to get your rating, and then I'm gonna go and do kind of what I did last time and give negative.
I mean, 1 out of 10. This is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I guess.
Yeah, is the one that's keeping you from giving a 0 out of 10 the fact that corporations and businesses like this are not going to care about the cost of life if it's profitable?
Yeah.
Profitable. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I guess insurance fraud happens at that level, I'm assuming, regularly.
I would think so.
And tax evasion regularly. Things like that.
Even at that level. The thing that is also interesting to me is, again, if you're talking about this, we're talking about like the highest level of like power and wealth. Mm-hmm. I don't even think that first of all, we all know that you don't pay taxes when you're...
No, you sure don't.
So,
you shield it all.
So I feel like there would have been another way to do it that would have been not killing people.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, right? I'm not a good businessman, but I'm not even a man. I don't know business very well, but I can't think that this would be the best way to reclaim that money.
Also, if you are building boats, you must know that at some point the boat, and especially boats at this size, at this new of technology, you're going to have to take into account repairs or loss of ship.
So actually, that is the thing for me. Is I struggle to understand how it wouldn't be profitable just to keep this ship up and running. Yeah. But give me your thoughts on rating before I go forward.
I'm still going to stick with 1.
You already did.
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. Smirnoff Ice is hitting me. So, okay. 1 out of 10. So, here's some kind of things to oppose that. Which I think I'm only doing with these first 2 conspiracy theories, but I kind of enjoy it. Is having you rate it and then me tell you how it's even less plausible. Yeah. So the insurance claim didn't even cover the losses incurred with the sinking of the Titanic. Huh. So, between losing a whole fucking ship. Yeah. And, the lawsuits that came after. Yeah. They lost money on this. And
there's no way that,
that's very easy to forecast. Yeah. Also, while they were both one of 3 Olympic-class liners, there were major physical differences between the 2 ships. Okay. Including the number of decks, the design, and a lot of other things that you could see quickly by looking physically between the 2. And, I said the Titanic, its maiden voyage was this huge deal. The Olympics' maiden voyage was also a huge deal. People knew what these boats looked like. Yeah, especially people in the know. And so I find it personally hard to believe that especially our first class industry magnate people wouldn't be like, hey, something's wrong.
I suppose that could be why JP Morgan didn't get on the boat.
Yeah, he looked at it and he said, that's not the Titanic.
I'm going to go back.
That's the Olympic. I thought we scrapped this shit. Yeah, so with that, are you still at 1 in 10?
I'll still be... No, I'm going to go down
to 0 out of 10.
It's just like, it is such a massive loss of life. And don't get me wrong, do I think that corporations would be fine with 2,200 people.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I do think that. But like, these are people who have families, and these are people who have affluent families who are going to sue you.
Yeah, I agree.
So
and they have the legal ability to sue the pants right off you.
Yeah.
Which is what happens a lot in courtrooms.
Yeah.
You just take your pants.
It's like nothing. It's like you're getting sued so hard and then your pants just come
It's
off.
like a force.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just blows your pants right off you. So yeah, I agree. This is 0 out of 10. And I'm going to be honest, 75% of the conspiracy theories I'm bringing you today are so implausible. Which I feel like listeners to this podcast who are avid conspiracy theorists probably get really frustrated with us.
Because we're not believing it enough. We have given things a try.
They're frustrated with me. Anybody whose team Avril is a clone is big Maddie fans. Big fans of Maddie.
She's a fucking clone, dog. She was on the Call Her Daddy podcast, and she asked her about it. So, I think she's in the circuit. We could definitely get her on the show.
We could get her on the show. Yeah. I still think, I said it not last episode, our Avril Lavigne episode.
Yeah.
If I were Avril Lavigne, I'm fully leaning into the clone thing. Mm-hmm. Everything about everything from now on is clone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So, Avril, I'll take a very small percentage of your profits if you move in that direction from now on.
I will say, the clip that I heard of her on that podcast, she basically said what you said, which was, this is a theory that doesn't hurt anybody. Yeah. So it's fine.
Yeah, as long as she's fine with it.
Yeah.
Which, why not? It's not going anywhere. Okay, but that was 2 episodes ago. This is the Titanic. So let's get our third conspiracy theory.
Do it. Bring it.
Conspiracy number 3. This is, gonna come with a surprise right at the beginning of it. The fires that were burning in the hull of the Titanic caused the crash into the iceberg to be catastrophic.
Okay.
So, actual fact. A fire broke out in the coal room of the Titanic, one of the coal bunkers, before it set sail and couldn't be put out. So, literally, the entire time,
the ship is on fire. Yeah, that would do it.
Yeah. So that's, when I found that, I was like, okay, is the conspiracy theory that the ship's on fire? And then I'm looking like, no, it's documented. It was
on fire.
It was on fire. Now, this actually wasn't uncommon.
Okay.
For steam engine ships, fires would frequently break out in coal bunkers due to spontaneous combustion of the coal.
Feels like something we could figure out.
I believe we did. It's good news.
We don't have steam.
Yes. He said, this is actually really dangerous. So yeah, about 10 days before the Titanic set sail, the spontaneous combustion happened in one of the coal bunkers.
Okay.
Set fire to the coal. And could not be put out. So the entire time it set sail, until I assume one very definitive moment, it was on fire.
Okay.
The definitive moment being submerged in water.
Right.
That took care of the fire, so that's good.
That's why they actually crashed on purpose, just to put the fire out.
Just to put the fire out. They're like, I don't know what else to do.
It couldn't be anything else.
So, basically, and this is less conspiracy theory, I feel like, and more just theory of what happened.
Okay.
Conspiracy theories denote that there's, like, a conspiracy.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a conspiracy, a cover-up for this,
yeah,
but not...
excessive secrecy.
Yeah, chaos and excessive secrecy.
Right, of course.
Put it on a shirt. Honestly, put it on a shirt. If anybody wants to put it on a shirt.
We will put it on a shirt.
Yeah, we
can make that happen.
So, the theory alleges that the crash itself was actually an unintended consequence of trying to extinguish the fires. So,
okay.
Here's a little just history lesson of when coal would spontaneously combust on steam engine ships.
Uh-huh.
The way to put out the fire is by shoveling the flaming coal right into the furnace.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah, that's what else are you going to do? You know,
Yeah.
sink the ship. Okay, so that is the way to extinguish fires, but also this particular fire was so far back in the coal bunker that they had to shovel coal out of the way to get to it.
Oh.
Now, an unintended consequence of this, because where are you shoveling it? Into the furnace. Is the more coal you put in the furnace, faster ship goes.
Got it.
So it was actually the Titanic was going full steam, fast as it can go, in the middle of the night in an iceberg field. That is a fact. People still speculate to this day why. And actually so let me tell you, there's over a dozen conspiracy theories that I saw on the Titanic. And one of them was that they were trying to, and this is actually mirrored in the movie Titanic, they were trying to set a speed record. So they were going full speed.
Okay.
It is wildly unwise to go full steam at night in a known iceberg field for very obvious reasons.
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah. They're in the middle of the ocean and it's not like, it was dark, right? Yeah. As we've learned, can't see an iceberg till it's too late.
Yeah.
Basically the thought is they were going full steam as an unintended consequence of trying to get this fire out. Is shoveling coal right into the furnace to get to the fires, which they never would have reached. Like, there was even a breakdown mathematically of how many inches of coal per hour they were going through and how far away the fire was. I was eyes glazed over at that point. But basically, they mathematically would not have even reached the fire by the time they hit the iceberg and sank. The theory is that, it's kind of two heads of this theory.
Okay.
So one is, they were going full steam, which caused them to not be able to avoid the iceberg and also crash substantially faster into said iceberg.
Okay.
Here's kind of some supporting facts beyond what I just said. Mm-hmm. There was a coal miner strike in England.
Okay.
So there was substantially less coal on board than there would normally be. So they planned on never going full steam at all. They were going to go half steam their entire trip because they had to ration out their coal.
Okay.
But they were definitively going full steam middle of the night.
Okay.
Conspiracy theorists also claim, and this kind of second head of this conspiracy theory, that the fires weakened the hull of the ship and caused the iceberg to rip a bigger hole in the side of the ship and thus sink faster.
That was my thought when you had said that there was a fire.
Now, however, that theory has been debunked by a lot of experts who say the fire actually probably helped the Titanic sink a little slower because it kept it from... So when the Titanic hit the iceberg, physically it should have rolled onto its starboard side, but the fires were causing it list a little bit to the port side. So it kind of evened out. So the ship didn't just immediately roll over.
Gotcha.
So that has been debunked. But the fact that the attempts to extinguish the fire might have inadvertently caused them to be going full steam in an iceberg field in the middle of the night. That's basically that theory. I think the most interesting part of it is the fact that the Titanic was fucking on fire.
The whole time?
The whole time. And 10 days beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is fascinating. I wanted to clarify because you had said that, but then you said 10 days, and I was like, wait a second. I thought I misheard you.
Yeah, 10 days before.
And it was just on fire the whole time.
Which, I guess, what are you going to do? I feel like what you do is get the coal out of the way and put the fire out. But what do I know?
I feel like maybe if this was a thing that happened,
mm-hmm.
What if you put the coal in a different room than where the fire is?
Yeah, exactly. You have the ability that it's still in port to take the coal out of the on fire coal.
Yeah.
Out of that room.
And you could just put it somewhere else.
And then you could put the fire out.
Yeah. But we weren't there, so it sounds like they were like
there must have been some reason why they couldn't do that.
We can't do anything other than be on fire.
Maybe it would have potentially, maybe there would have been a potential for the fire to spread if they had done that.
Yeah.
Maybe the safest thing to do was to keep that fire contained in that area.
Well, because I still don't totally understand. I don't understand why you would store. I mean, you store coal next to the furnace.
Yeah, so it was okay. So the coal was not in the room with the furnace; it was in a bunker. It's called the coal bunker. Now it is, directly accessible from the furnace room.
But I guess I still just don't understand, like, what is causing it to spontaneously combust. Other than, I suppose if you're on, so it's just friction then.
Yeah, the idea of spontaneous combustion breaks my brain in general. I listened to this whole podcast episode from this podcast called Strange and Unexplained about spontaneous human combustion. Wild. Just wild.
There's, like, one documented
Just,
case
like,
of it.
5.
Really?
Yeah.
That's more than I thought
Yeah.
it was.
Mm-hmm. Some of them, they're saying maybe it wasn't so spontaneous, but yeah.
Yeah.
Just combustion.
I mean, it's possible, but I suppose if you're going up and down, there's enough friction and there's enough heat in that room that you could ignite coal.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it would be so spontaneous. So, okay. Why did they still go ahead with this? This is where my conspiracy hat, and I'm going full on.
Sure.
This boat was on fire for 10 days.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going to go half steam the whole way.
Yes.
Why did you go at all? Because it sounds like you were going to run out of coal.
So, that's a great question. If I had to guess and put my conspiracy theory hat on, is it would be incredibly humiliating and probably affect the stock price of the White Star Line by a lot. It would probably cost them a massive amount of money. So, in my mind, if they were doing a cost-benefit analysis, risk analysis, they're like, it's fine, this happens all the time, we'll just not tell anyone.
Okay. That feels more plausible with what we think of, like, corporations, right? Rather than, like, plotting to kill 2,200 people, basically just with a gross amount of negligence and disregard for human life to say, let's go ahead and try it. What's the worst that could happen?
And if corporations are so negligent today, imagine in 1912, before we had a lot of the regulations that we see today.
Right.
How much more negligent they could be.
I think there were regulations that came out of this, right? Like, you have to have enough life support on the boat for the number of passengers on the boat.
True.
Something like that.
Yeah, crazy things. They're like, you don't want to give up our deck space. Like,
right. That's why there were so many private decks.
The deck is in the ocean now. You gave it all up. No. So what's interesting about this, I don't have a lot of evidence against it.
I would be hard pressed to, I don't know how you would get evidence against it.
Yeah. Now, it is all speculative still. But the things we know. There was a fire. They didn't have enough coal and were planning on going half steam. They were, in fact, going full steam. The common way to put this kind of coal fire out
is to keep shoveling it
into the furnace. And the only way to get the coal out of the way to get to the fire, even, is to shovel that coal into the furnace faster.
Which is why they were going full speed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this one a solid 6 out of 10.
You know what? Yeah, so my first two, also 0 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
This one, honestly, the highest I've ever given, 8 out of 10.
I like it. And I'm actually surprised that the fire wouldn't have, for that long, have done any structural damage to the ship.
My thought is probably because a coal bunker is self-contained, maybe not touching the outside of the ship, especially if they do things like spontaneously combust.
Right.
Sure. Right. But that's, I don't know that for sure. That's my guess.
8 out of 10. Yeah, I was waffling between 6 and 7 because I feel like it is, that feels very plausible because you're just shoveling it in, you're trying to solve a problem.
Yes.
And I wonder too if there's a strike on coal workers, then the people on the ship running the coal, this is purely speculative, but they could be inexperienced. And it's
the coal miners. That were on strike. So there was just less coal available.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think the only thing that keeps it from 10 out of 10 to me is there's no definitive proof that this is
what happened.
The reason. Yeah, and there's no even, I think, definitive proof other than they were in fact going full steam, that was the reason they were going full steam. But I don't have, honestly, this is a first for this podcast. I don't have a good reason why this wouldn't be true.
Yeah, because you make a good point. Because okay, we don't necessarily have a lot of evidence against it, and it would be hard to definitively prove as well, right? The Titanic's at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, it's not on fire anymore.
It's not on fire. And I would go ahead and venture a guess that any coal that was still there is probably gone.
Yep.
But it's not. This is not the biggest leap in logic. There was a fire. They were definitely going full speed. There was definitely a plausible reason for them to be going full speed because you take all of the burning coal and all of the, pretty much all the coal.
And it was their official plan to not go full speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's how it would go down. I'm, you know what? I'll go 8 out of 10 with you.
Yeah.
I'll go 8 out of 10 with you on that one.
Who's funding this podcast first, honestly?
Yeah, that's the highest score I think anything's ever gotten.
We barely go above 5 ever. 5 for me is it's kind of plausible.
Yeah.
That's it. I think also people need to understand, because some people have actually reached out to me and be like, I thought that this was a 9 out of 10. I thought, I think we're both kind of on the same page here. 10 out of 10 is there's definitive proof. Yeah. This is what happened.
Yeah.
5 out of 10 is literally a 50-50 chance for me. It could be, but it might not be.
Right.
There's not enough evidence either way.
Yeah, and sometimes we end up around a 4 out of 10, which is, this is a sketchy situation, but I'm not satisfied.
Yeah, I'm not satisfied with the amount of evidence. Yeah, this one, we can't be satisfied with the amount of evidence. There's no way to definitively prove this, but it seems incredibly plausible.
Yeah.
Which is, again, crazy for us.
I would be so interested. I mean, like you said, to get more into if there were paper records. I'm sure somebody's looked at it of why the decision.
Nah, they were whatever
to continue the journey. Because I would have been well, we don't have enough coal to get across the Atlantic Ocean.
What I would be interested to know, and I didn't look it up, and that's so. I'm the one who put this episode together, so when I say I'd be interested to know, I'm like, Maddie, why don't you tell me?
I'll do my best.
But I would be interested to know, because this was such a common issue with steam engine cruise liners. How often did you just be like, okay, we're just gonna go?
It must have been common practice.
Now, and I imagine if you're already planning on going full steam, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And maybe you're not going through an iceberg field. I don't know. But, I guess also, a point that I kind of maybe have against it too.
Yeah.
Is if it was such a not big deal for 10 days leading up to,
then it must have been a not big deal.
Why would we be risking going full steam unless it is a growing problem? Unless, okay, I guess if I were to now talk myself back around, that decision was made by higher up people.
Yeah.
And the actual, boiler room workers, furnace room workers might have seen it as maybe, and even the just people running the ship itself might be like, yeah, this is a bigger problem, but we still have to go because
stock prices and
the White Star Ocean Line is saying we have to go. So this is how we're going to handle it. We're going to get to that fire and we're going to get it out.
I feel like the real conspiracy theory of the Titanic, listening to this and feeling like this is this could so easily be true, is that the conspiracy was that they were displaying the Titanic as unsinkable. They were saying that this is going to be the best maiden voyage of anything ever done. I think for me it's the false marketing, when in reality the ship was a mess the entire
literally
time.
On fire. I think that that's, to me, if we all of these 3 conspiracy theories, don't worry, not number 4. All 3 of these conspiracy theories kind of center around corporate neglect.
Yeah, chaos and excessive secrecy.
Chaos and excessive secrecy, but definitely, like, you have this, like, marketed state-of-the-art, quote-unquote, unsinkable safety measures of the Titanic, when in fact, it was less safe than it could have been, because it was literally on fire for over a week before it ever set sail.
Yeah. And they didn't think to bring any extra safety measures.
Like lifeboats.
Like lifeboats?
They're like, yeah, how are first-class people going to have their private promenades that they paid £100,000 for?
Which is a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah. I would say we actually, hey, sorry, we want to make sure there are enough lifeboats for you.
Yeah, so let me go full background. I'm on the side of the rich people. Everything was fine.
0 out of 10. Okay, so that's that one. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
First for this podcast. Another first for this podcast. We've had conspiracy theories surrounding aliens, vampires, the mafia, Freemasons, clones.
Yep.
This one is centered around a mummy's curse.
I fucking love this.
Yeah, conspiracy theory number 4, the Titanic sank due to a mummy's curse.
I love it. 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think anybody listening would be like, Maddie wrote this.
As soon as I saw this, I was like, this is it. This is one that I have to do. So this claim starts from 2 different directions. So the first is William Stead, who's a British editor who spent, in a totally sane decision, the previous several years claiming a mummy's curse was causing mysterious destruction and disaster all over London. That's a quote, mysterious destruction and disaster.
Yeah. I was there for that.
I agree. Yeah, there's a lot of mysterious destruction, a lot of mysterious disaster.
Yeah. You'd be shocked.
Yeah,
at the level of mysterious.
So we don't know what's happening. But yeah. The myths, myths of things like Egyptian curses likely played off the fear that, I don't know, colonizing foreign lands was going to have negative repercussions on English society. They also said the same thing about, like, Native American curses, stuff like that. So Stead was a passenger on the Titanic, and apparently documented, told the story of the mummy's curse to anyone who would listen.
Okay.
After the ship sank, a survivor told the story of the mummy's curse to the New York Times, and they published it with this headline: Ghost of the Titanic. Hoodoo mummy followed by man who wrote its story.
Hoodoo?
Yep.
Okay.
We're just getting listen, African. It's 1912. So basically, this actual newspaper article from the New York Times claimed that Stead himself had been cursed.
Nothing is different between 2024 and 1912.
Yeah, so basically they were saying he couldn't keep his damn mouth shut about mummy curses, so the mummy followed. The mummy is like, now you are cursed.
Oh, so wait. So it wasn't just a mummy's curse. It was a personal vendetta.
It was a personal vendetta because he couldn't keep his stupid fucking mouth shut. And the mummy's like, you know what? The mysterious disaster strikes again.
Mysterious disasters. Listen. It was a personal vendetta. I just don't feel like an undead mummy's curse is that.
I feel like if it was, good for her. I'm assuming it was a female mummy.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other direction this story comes from is, American socialite Margaret Brown. She's known as the unsinkable Molly Brown. Kathy Bates played her in the Titanic movie. Who was an actual hero, saved people on the Titanic as it was sinking. Yeah. So, the people say the mummy's curse actually followed Molly Brown onto the Titanic because she was carrying Egyptian artifacts, including an actual mummy, like you do, on board the Titanic. She was going to take it to a museum in Denver. And so they're saying, you brought this mummy who is like, you removed me from my tomb. I'm going to curse you.
You shouldn't do that.
You shouldn't. Well, I'm sure she didn't, but I bet someone else did.
Yeah.
And it was headed to this museum in Denver. However, the mummy's curse struck and sank the Titanic.
Well, here's the thing. Should you rob people's graves? No.
Well. Are we saying no one's graves?
Okay, only people who deserve it.
Yeah.
And
most of the people who are mummified probably deserved it. I'm gonna say, yeah, we should respect all cultures, but Egyptian pharaohs were the Elon Musks of their day. So,
yeah. But I feel like their graves should have been robbed by
Egyptians,
by people who live in Egypt.
Yeah, I agree. I think plundering other people's cultures to take to museums is theft.
You've heard it here on Who's Funding This Podcast.
Yeah.
Colonialism and imperialism is bad.
Hot take. So here's where, besides the obvious mummies' curses aren't real, this theory falls apart. On the Molly Brown side.
I don't know.
The personal vendetta against William Stead. I have nothing other than mummy's curses aren't.
The Molly one makes more sense. The bitch brought the mummy.
But did she?
Oh.
So here's the thing: the mummy in question was in the British Museum at the time and still is there today.
Oh, okay.
It's never left.
That makes a difference. That makes a significant difference.
Yeah. So, yeah, that one, what do you think?
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10? Because the one is a want.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. 1 out of 10, I want to believe it. I want... I want William Stead to just have been too fucking much of a loudmouth, and a mummy is like, fuck you. Go fuck yourself.
There were all these mysterious disasters.
There was the mysterious disasters and destruction.
How else do you explain mysterious disasters?
Other than mummies.
Right.
Yeah. Man, I think it's just wild that the New York Times published this. That's as wild as in the Amelia Earhart episode learning that Cosmo had an aviation editor.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... To me, we should flip-flop these two.
Right. But I don't know. I could see the New York Times doing that.
Cosmo says 12 new sex positions to try during a mummy's curse.
When a mummy's cursing your marriage.
Has a mummy cursed your husband's penis?
How do you know?
It's gonorrhea.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Is your husband telling you that it's not gonorrhea?
It's a mummy's curse? It's gonorrhea. It's some penicillin. But yeah, so that is all of my 4 conspiracy theories about the Titanic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I sort of kind of loved these. Like, except for the first one with the QAnon bed. Didn't love that. But
yeah.
3 of 4 were fun.
They were fun.
I hate that there was such a massive loss of life.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Not fun. But to explain away crazy things with something that could have actually happened.
Yeah.
Great. Tickles the brain.
Yeah, truly.
Back that up with the mummy's curse.
Mm-hmm.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Well, I'm saying maybe the mummy's curse caused the fire.
Could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Yeah. Could have. That's what a mummy would do.
So that the fire never went out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And then the mummy also sort of psychically convinced these men in the boiler room that they had to go full steam.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. That's exactly it.
The only reason that the Titanic crashed is because Brendan Fraser wasn't alive yet.
Yeah. Because he could have mummied.
He could have mummied?
He didn't mummy.
He didn't do the thing?
When did the mummy movies took place in the 20s? 1920s. So yeah, he was too young.
Yeah.
He was too young.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I had such a fun time putting this episode together because, I mean, again, the loss of life, tragic, but it's over 100 years ago. I don't think we have to care. But it's fun theories, and I think it's really interesting to have a theory that is as plausible as the fire one is.
Yeah. It is so interesting the way that, like you said, from a psychological standpoint, just the vast gamut that we could go.
Yes, truly. It's from, a horrible QAnon-based one that, on its own is a little more innocent, to a mummy's curse, to fires, to, it was insurance fraud.
No, actually, my conspiracy theory is that the Titanic never sank. And it was the first population of Atlantis.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's what happened.
With their crystal energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the coals kept burning, but they didn't run out. What happens when you condense a coal down into diamond? Which is like a crystal. Like a crystal?
It looks a lot like a crystal.
It sure does.
Yeah. Well, if you have thoughts on the Titanic, diamonds, crystals, Atlantis, any of those,
Scream them from your rooftops.
Scream them from your rooftops. We will hear.
Yeah.
Or you could just get a hold of us at Who's Funding This Podcast on all socials. You could email us, Who's Funding This Podcast at gmail.com. Somebody asked the other day why we push the Gmail so much. Listen, it's because you can email us.
You can email. It's like, okay, the reason why we push the email so much is because what do you mean? I've told you guys this. I love to chit chat.
Yeah, listen, we push it because if you tell us a conspiracy theory, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We will.
And you can give us longer pieces of information than you can on the other socials.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, let us know a conspiracy theory you want us to cover. Let us know what you think about the conspiracy theories we have covered. If you could, just rate us wherever you're listening. Give us 5 stars.
Yep.
That helps us more than you could ever know. And gets us well on our way to finding someone who will fund this podcast.
That's what we want.
Yeah. We'll see you next Wednesday.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
Bye.